Let's hear what Flávio Bolsonaro said when asked about the money, the amount that Daniel Vorcaro allegedly allocated for the film Dark Horse. Roll it.
From now on, and I want to start by hearing your thoughts on the Banco Master scandal. Banker and candidate Daniel Vorcaro is in jail for billion-dollar fraud. He transferred 61 million reais to finance a film about his father, Jair Bolsonaro. First, you denied having asked Vorcaro for money. Then, audio messages came to light showing that yes, you did ask. You demanded money from Vorcaro for the film. Then, you omitted having met with Vorcaro. Then, you admitted that you did meet with Vorcaro even at his house, including the day after he was released from prison. I ask you, in light of all these contradictions, how can you convince the voter that you did not have a close relationship with Daniel Vorcaro?
Well, Renato, first of all, I want to express my solidarity with you for what happened here yesterday during the interview with the president himself. Right, given the discourtesy he showed me, obviously, I felt free to ask any kind of question. This is the kind of questions that always needs to be clarified, even though I've talked about it several times. It never hurts to explain it again. Not only for you, but especially for those at home here watching me, that there is absolutely nothing wrong with a son seeking private funding for his own father's fund. And someone who obviously, despite being a senator, did not offer any quid pro quo to this investor just because I am a senator. So, Renato, honestly, there is absolutely nothing irregular in this film. I did not seek money through the law. I did not seek money from public funds. And this was actually sponsorship that did not involve any transfer to Flavio Bolsonaro. It was sponsorship for a private film about my father.
Yes, these facts are also important because you are a federal senator running for the office of president. And you received millions from a banker who is in prison for serious crimes, including billion-dollar fraud, including money from retirees, a private militia targeting enemies. That's why it's in the public interest to understand not only your relationship with him, but also the details of this financing. About your relationship with him, on the eve of Vorcaro's arrest, when the fraud and the investigations were already known and reported, you actually said the following in a conversation: I am and will always be with you. What did you mean by that?
Well, Renata, it's important to separate things. The type of private relationship, that involves the sponsorship for the film, which is the same type of private relationship as, a banker who also invested, who provided 160 million reais in sponsorship to Luciano Huck's show here at Globo. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's the same person who made an investment of 50 million reais in Grupo Globo, specifically in Editora Globo, so that several lectures could be given, including one in New York, which was from Valor Econômico, which belongs to Grupo Globo. So, Renata, G is here, right? The sponsorship for Grupo Globo, the sponsorship for the private film. This was done in good faith. There's nothing illegal. Everything's correct. It's completely different from the relationship he built with the current government.
But what did you mean by I'll always be with you?
The only relationship I had with him, Renata, was about this movie, nothing else. So actually, the movie was already underway. I didn't want this work of art to be lost. It was a dream coming true. The President Bolsonaro deserves a work of art.
A work, but he doesn't say where the money went, right? It's funny, he repeats private money for the private movie, that same line we've already heard before. He doesn't bring anything new, he doesn't provide the numbers. Anyway, your analysis. Good evening.
Good evening. The public could ask for hazard pay for being exposed twice to the lies and omissions of Flávio Bolsonaro, my friend. Yeah, there's no need to show everything again. We will explain here what happened. Flávio Bolsonaro lied, withheld information, and dodged. He didn't answer any of the questions that were asked of him, not a single one. If you want to play back the whole interview, for God's sake, don't do it. You'll notice that not once did the answers directly address what he was asked, what he was questioned about. So, for example, in this case, that wasn't even asked. The colleagues didn't have the chance to say it. But he's lying when he says it isn't public money. Sakamoto already said it. I'll repeat it. The money that Vorcaro stole came from public pension funds, from governments, many of them linked to the PL or supported by the PL. From Flávio Bolsonaro. So it's obvious that he could, yes, give something in return to Vorcaro, or if he couldn't, Vorcaro wouldn't give him millions, hundreds of millions of reais. It's obvious. You don't have to be a genius to figure that out, right? But like in this case with Banco Master, he's lying when he says the money wasn't public. It was public money. He lied saying he hadn't met, that he hadn't asked for money. He was confronted with that and what? He didn't answer. And he wasn't pressed about it either. That's what happened in those interviews, in those grilling sessions. You have a script there. I understand you have to follow the script. But if the interviewee doesn't answer what you asked, Renata, you, Renata Vasconcelos, make the effort to say, hold on, and repeat the question 2 or 3 times. When the interviewee doesn't answer, you have to tell him, sir, you didn't answer. You left the audience in the dark, sir.
Or you are lying
avoided
too,
the question.
Toledo, if
You
that's
dodged
the case.
it.
You are lying.
You don't even have to get to that point. But like if you confront, right? For example, let's take another one moving forward here. The script taking this liberty, right?
Mm-hmm.
When he manages to talk, for example, about the interest rate, his father starts. The government with the interest rate. In percentage points, 4,000% delivers with 13.59 points more. And the reporters don't have the presence of mind to confront him with reality. Because Flávio has never done anything in his life besides giving medals to criminals, like in the case of Adriano da Danóbio, which was very well pointed out by Trey and Renata Vasconcelos. However, he has never done anything concrete, right? He has nothing to show. So if there is something, you have to press him about what his father did. And the father raised the interest rate by 9 percentage points. But the audience who watched the interview didn't find out about that.
That's right, Sakamoto. I want to hear from you in this context as well. Let me check my notes here. I made several for us to discuss, right? Because there are several issues there that were left open. Renata Vasconcelos, she made a timeline of the events, right? From the beginning, with the reporter asking questions, him saying that the reporter was an activist, that it wasn't true. Then they admitted that yes, he did say it, but anyway, then the audio came out, then he said he had never met in person, later it became public that he did visit Daniel Vorcaro. And he got away with it, right? He said that the trailer ended up wrapping up the subject, saying that nothing was clarified. And then he tried to respond, but was cut off. And they moved on to the next topic.
And there's a point in this whole story that I think we need to emphasize, because the basis of all the justification, all the excuses from Senator Flavio Bolsonaro regarding all this money is that it's the same as everyone else. He tries all the time to say, look, everything I did is the same as what anyone else does. No, it's not. But it's not even close. Because here's the thing. For everyone listening to us here, who do you call to ask for 134 million reais and get 61 million reais just by talking? Without presenting a projects, look, without presenting anything. It's just by talking. Yeah, who among you does that? Who has that kind of power? That power comes from the fact that the person has the prospect of power. You even have Daniel Vorcaro now, without cooperating with prosecutors, waiting for what? Right? Waiting for what in that sense? Waiting for the outcome of the elections? I have no doubt about it.